Okay, so let's start with the new topic, which is the dimensional analysis. Dimensional analysis. So, before understanding dimensional analysis, let's first discuss what is the meaning of dimension. So, we are not discussing about the usual dimensions like 1D, 2D, or 3D, for example, length, breadth, or height. We are discussing about dimensions in the sense of fundamental units. So let me first write what is the definition of a dimension, then we'll understand the meaning using some examples. So when a quantity is expressed in terms of the base quantities, then it is called the dimension of that quantity. I will make this thing clear using a few examples. So for example, let's say what is the formula of velocity, or let's say what is the formula of speed. Speed is distance upon time. Now what is a distance? Distance is just a length. And what is time? Time is time. Okay. Here I can write speed as the quantity which can be expressed in base quantities, which are length and time. That is, I can write that speed is having the dimension L t minus 1, minus 1 because t was in the denominator, it was like this, so I can write it like this. So L t minus 1 is the dimension of speed. What does it mean? It means that in speed there is one quantity having the dimension of length, there is one fundamental quantity having the dimension t minus 1. So speed consists of length and time. It does not have anything to do with the other fundamental quantities such as mass, current, temperature, etc. Another example, let's say force. So force is mass into acceleration, F equal to ma. Now mass into acceleration can be written as mass into velocity upon time. Acceleration is the rate of change of velocity. Now velocity can be written like displacement, or you can write distance upon time. So in all it is like mass into distance or displacement upon time square. Now what are the dimensions? For mass I can write capital M because mass is mass. Then for time, so time square is there, so I will write t square, and distance is the length. So what will I write? ml upon t square, that is the dimension of force is ml t minus 2. That means force consists of one quantity which is mass, one quantity which is length, and t minus 2 for time. So what is dimension? When we express derive quantities in terms of fundamental or base quantities, then those are the dimensions of that derived quantity. For example, speed is the derived quantity and its dimensions are L t minus 1. Force is a derived quantity, its dimensions are m L t minus 2. So ultimately we have 7 fundamental quantities. Mass, length, time, temperature, electric current, then amount of substance, and luminous intensity. So for mass we use capital M. length capital L, time capital T. Remember, I am not talking that I write mass as capital M. When I am writing the dimensions, then during that process I will write the mass as capital M, length as capital L, time is capital T. Now time and temperature have same letters, so we usually write theta for temperature. Current is usually A, or sometimes it is also represented by I. Now amount of substance and luminous intensity, they are not very commonly used, so they are not having any certain designation of any particular letter with them while writing dimension. But yeah, you can write, if you want, you can write like capital MO for moles, and for luminous intensity you can write L. So we have this 7 fundamental quantities, but most of the time we will be dealing with mostly these 3 quantities, and in certain times temperature will be there, and in certain places current will be there, but most of the time we will be only discussing the quantities which are having the dimensions of mass, length and time. Okay, so most of the quantities can be expressed in terms of mass, length and time, and especially in 11th course of the 11th standard, most of the things can be represented by mass, length and time only. So mass, length and time will be our most important fundamental quantities. So whenever we write any derived quantity in terms of a fundamental quantity, we say that those are the dimensions of that derived quantities, or we can say that the derived quantities are composed of this fundamental quantities. For example, speed is composed of length and time, force is composed of mass, length and time. Okay, now what are the uses of the dimension or dimensional analysis? So there are quite a few uses of dimensional analysis. First is the first we can check the equation using the homogeneity of dimensions. So before we understand this, let me first tell you one important thing. Let's say I write something like this. Let's say randomly I have written something. So I want to tell you what is the meaning of a term. So this is one term, this is another term, and this is another term. Okay, so terms are the things which will be separated by a plus or a minus. Okay, so in this particular equation we have 3 terms. Fine, so keep this in mind. So what does this first thing tells us about the use of dimensional analysis? It is about the homogeneity of dimensions. So if we have an equation, then that equation is only correct, that physical equation is only correct if the dimensions of all the terms is same. So all the terms must have same dimension. For example, let's say x is equal to ut plus half at square. You might have heard about this equation in class 9. So what is the dimension of distance or displacement? It is length. Now this is velocity. The dimension of velocity is length upon time. Dimension of time is obviously time. Then this is a constant, so having no dimension. Dimension of acceleration is velocity upon time, and velocity is distance upon time. So acceleration is distance upon time, velocity upon time, that is distance upon time, that is L t square, L upon t square. So acceleration is L t square, and again the dimension of t square is t square. So if you see here, what are the dimensions for this side? L. What is the dimension here? Again L. What is the dimension here? Again L, because this will get cancelled, this will also get cancelled. So you see here, in all the terms have the same dimension. We have 3 terms and all these 3 terms have the same dimension. So if it is the case, then this can be, okay, it is not necessary, but this can be a correct equation in a physical manner, okay, in physics. So this is the first application. You can check whether a certain equation maybe is it may be correct or is it incorrect. Okay, we cannot be sure that it is correct, 100% sure, but we if the dimensions are not matching, let's say if the dimension were like this, one of the unit was like this, one of the quantity was like this, so then we can be 100% sure that the physical equation is incorrect. Okay, so we can check whether the equation is incorrect or not using this dimensional analysis. Second major point or use is the conversion of units. So we can convert one unit into another unit. We can convert the SI unit into CGS unit or CGS unit into SI unit using this dimensional analysis. Let's take an example. Let's say pressure is equal to force upon area. Okay, force upon area, it is called pressure. Now what are the dimensions? Dimension of force ml t minus 2, dimension of area, okay, area is length or meter square, okay, so L square, okay, length into breadth. So ultimately we get L ml minus 1 t minus 2. So these are the dimension for pressure. Now the SI unit of pressure is Pascal. Pascal can be said to be Newton per meter square, okay, Newton per meter square, fine. So Pascal is 1 Newton per meter square, and Newton per meter square can also be written as kilogram meter per second square upon meter square. It will come out to be kilogram per meter per second square. Now in CGS units, we can write this as dyne upon centimeter square or gram centimeter upon second square upon centimeter square, or gram per centimeter per second square. So we have this, finally we have this two things. These are in fundamental quantities, terms of the fundamental quantities. So now let's convert the SI unit in SI unit, that is Pascal, into CGS unit of the pressure. So so let's find out what is 1 Pascal equal to how many CGS pressure. So how can we find that? Just do one thing, divide the two things, 1 Pascal upon 1 CGS pressure. Now it will be equal to 1 kg, or rather I can initially write kg upon meter second square, and 1 CGS pressure was gram upon centimeter second square. Now do one thing, make all the similar units to be at the same place, like kilogram upon gram, then meter upon centimeter, then second upon second. Do this and keep the sign as well, -1 -2, okay. This can be like this, don't be confused, this is equivalent, fine. So if you are getting confused, let me write it like this. So you can also write the above thing like this, okay, this is equivalent. Now how can we convert it? So just write it like this, 1 kg is equal to how much? It is equal to 1000 gram. Then 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeter, and then this is same, okay, seconds, this unit is same. So ultimately what we will get 1000 from here and 100 from here, but it is having the power -1. So we get 1000 upon 100, that is 10. So 1 Pascal upon 1 CGS pressure is equal to 10. So this means we get 1 Pascal equal to 10 CGS pressure. So this is how we can convert one unit into another unit using dimensional analysis. So this was the second application or second use of dimensional analysis. Now the third use or third application. It is about deducing relation among physical quantities, or you can say it is about finding the formula of various things. For example, if you want to find the formula for velocity, you can find the rough formula using this dimensional analysis. Let's take one example. So let's say we want to find the formula for the time period of an oscillation of a pendulum under gravity. Now we find that the time period of oscillation depends on three things. After experiment we find this. It depends on length. We do not know how. Is it L square, L cube, 1 by L? We do not know. So let's just write L to the power A. Then we find that time period also depends on mass of the pendulum. Let's say we also find that it depends on the acceleration due to gravity. Now why I am writing ABC? Because I do not know whether it is g square or g to the power 5 or whatever, 1 by g. So for that I am writing ABC, and I will find the exact powers that the quantity must have here. So these powers can be found out using the dimensional analysis. Let's see how. So we know that this can be written like this, okay, like this. Now whenever we put an equal to sign, so there is one constant, so let's say the constant is k. So the equation is this for now. Now what is our task? Our task is to find the value of ABC, which will give us the relation between time and length, mass and acceleration due to gravity. Okay, so now what is the dimensions of all these quantities? So the dimension of time is capital T obviously, for length it is capital L, for mass it is capital M, and g, if you do not know, g is just the acceleration due to gravity, or you can say acceleration. So we know acceleration as the dimensions which are equal to L upon T square. Okay, so let's write them. So we know that it will be T equal to now k is a constant, so it does not have any dimension. So then what we will get, for length it is L to the power A, for mass it is M to the power B, for acceleration it is L T minus 2 to the power C. Okay, do you understand? We can write this as L T minus 2. Okay, so now why ABC? Because you know A, B and C, we had that from the assumption initially. Okay, now we know that the dimensions of each term must be same. So this is one term and this is another term, if you know what I mean. Let's tell you again. So this is one term, this is second term, this is third term. So all these term must have same dimensions. Okay, so in the formula that we are trying to derive, what we have two terms. One is this term and one is this term. Remember, terms are how do you get different terms? If they have plus or minus between them or equal to sign between them. So we have two terms here. So now what will be the value of A, B and C? How can we find this? So let's just open the brackets first. So this is T to the power 1, this is L A, this is M to the power B, this is L to the power C and T to the power minus 2C. Now we can write L to be A plus C. Okay, we know that. Let's say if we have x square plus x cube. Okay, so now we will get x to the power 5. When we multiply, we add the powers. So similarly, L will be A plus C. M again it is alone, M to the power B, and time minus 2C. So just what do we need? We need to compare the similar entities. Here L is 0 and M is also 0. So L 0 and L A plus C will be compared. M 0 and M to the power B will be compared, and T to the power 1 and T to the power minus 2C will be compared. They must be equal again because the dimensions must be same both the sides. So you will get A plus C equal to 0, B equal to 0 and minus 2C equal to 1. So here C will be minus 1 by 2, B will be 0 and A will be equal to A minus 1 by 2 equal to 0, that is A equal to 1 by 2. So now we have all the terms. So what will we get ultimately? T will be equal to K L to the power 1 by 2. Then what do we get about mass? So 0, so it does not depend on mass. Now G, what is G? 1 by 2 minus 1 by 2. So ultimately it is K root L 1 by root G, or you can write T equal to K root L by G. So this is the approximate formula for the time period of the oscillation of a pendulum. Obviously we do not yet know what is this constant. Okay, this constant can be anything. This can be found out using the experimental data. So this is how we can find the formulas or the relation between different physical quantities using dimensional analysis. So these are the three main applications or uses of the dimensional analysis. Now what are the limitations? So limitations of the dimensional analysis. It is not all good. Okay, there are quite a few limitations. Obviously first is, you can see above that you cannot find the value of constant. You can't find the value of constants in the equation. Now I can put anything at k. Okay, I can write 2, I can write 3 pi, I can write 2 pi, I can write 3.25, I can write anything, and the dimensions will be same of both these sides. So the dimensional analysis do not tell us about the exact value of the constant. If we want to find the exact formula, we cannot find using this. Second drawback is that if we have more than let's say we have more than 3 unknowns here. Okay, so we will not be able to find the value of M, L and T to the power what? We will not be able to find this. Why? Because for finding 3 unknowns we require 3 equation, and if we have let's say we have this L, M, G, X, Y, so there are 5 unknowns, so we will only get 3 equations because M, L and T, we have only these 3 things. So we cannot we cannot find 5 unknown using only 3 equations. So this is one of the drawback, that this analysis can only be used if we have MLT, which are only 3. So the unknowns must be 3 only, otherwise we will not be able to find. Okay. Now the third limitation is that if the two sides of the equation have the same dimension, even after that you cannot be 100% sure that the equation is correct. Okay, so you can't be 100% sure whether you find the correct or the exact equation. Why? Because there are many quantities having similar dimensions. For example, you will find in the upcoming chapters that the dimension of torque, work, and there are so many such quantities, they have quite similar dimensions. So you cannot be sure every time that if the dimensions are equal both the sides, then that equation is completely correct. Okay, so this is one limitation. of the dimensional analysis. Okay, it also does not give any information whether the quantity is scalar or vector. So it gives no information about the scalar or vector nature of the quantity. We cannot say that the quantity is scalar or vector using dimensional analysis. And obviously, as I said, we can't find the exact equation. That is, we cannot find the value of the constant that are in the equation. So these are few of the limitations of the dimensional analysis. Now let's wrap up this chapter by quickly discussing a few interesting things. First, let's start with the discussion of the structure of the world. So if you remember from 9th class, you must have heard about the term called atoms, molecules, etc. So let's discuss a few things about that. So initially, everybody thought that everything is made up of 5 elements. Okay, first theory was of 5 elements. So people used to think, let's say, what is the wood made up of, or what is the paper made up of, or what is the soil made up of, what is the water made up of, or what is the human body is made up of, or anything in the universe is made up of. So there was this theory of 5 elements. In most of the civilizations, it was thought that we or everything in this universe is made up of or consists of 5 elements. So what were those 5 elements? So those 5 elements were earth, water, fire, air and ether. Ether, or space element. So in most of the civilization, this theory was quite prominent, that everything is consisted of these 5 elements. Let's say humans are made up of earth, water, fire, air and ether. But gradually it was proposed that this is not the case, and everything is made up of atoms. So these were two contemporary theories. Obviously this theory was most widely accepted all over the world. But this theory of atoms, gradually the name changed and it became atom, and we finally get the theory of atoms, which was given first properly formulated by John Dalton. Although the theory of atoms is 2000 3000 years old, but properly it was formulated by John Dalton in 1800s. So the theory of atoms said that everything is consisted of atoms. They are the smallest particles of anything that we have around us. Now gradually we found out that atoms are also not indivisible. Atoms consist of or more smaller particles such as electrons, protons and neutrons. Then we found that electron, protons or neutrons are also not the smallest entities. You might not have heard about these things, but protons and neutrons, they are made up of quarks. Quarks are the particles which make the protons and neutrons. And now we know that there are, according to the standard model of particle physics, there are many such small particles, hundreds of subatomic or small particles which make the atoms or which make the elements. So let me write this. We went from 5 element theory to atom, then we got electron, proton and neutron. Now we know electron is the particle which is quite small. Protons and neutrons are made up of quarks. Electron is also called a lepton. Okay, don't worry if you do not understand this. These are the things that you do not need to worry about. Then we came to know that these are also made up of some other particles. Okay, so that is called the standard model of particle physics. We study everything in that. So what we are trying to say here is that we yet do not know what we will find when we go further into the smallness of the universe. The world is very mysterious, and we might find some other smaller particles that than the particles that we know at present. So this is quite astonishing that we have these theories which we can say that yeah, the element that everything is made up of electrons, protons or neutrons, or everything is consisted of leptons or quarks or any such particles. So this is science, in science we are always evolving and we are improving ourselves, and we are trying to find the best possible answer at the present moment. Now let's end the discussion of this chapter with a few interesting data points or facts about the size or the order of magnitudes that we find in this universe. So this is the order of magnitude that we find in the universe. The biggest length is of the observable universe, which is around 10 to the power 26 meters, and the smallest is of a proton or an electron, which is around 10 to the power minus 15 meters. The range here is 10 to the power 41, that is the smallest and the biggest has the difference of 10 to the power 14 meters. Similarly, the mass of the observable universe is 10 to the power 51 kg, and the electron has around the mass of 10 to the power minus 31 kg. That gives us the difference of 10 to the power 82. Okay, and similarly with time, there are some unstable particles, okay, which are not quite having large lifespan. They decay very quickly, so they only live for 10 to the power minus 15 seconds, and the age of the universe is around 10 to the power 17 seconds. Again, this gives us the range of around 10 to the power 41. So this is the order of magnitude that we find in the universe. There are so many small things and there are so many big things, and this is again quite amazing that the small and the big has such similar ranges for length, for time, and for mass. This is like 10 to the power 41 square. Okay, this is again quite astonishing that there is this kind of a symmetry, but yeah, we can find this odd things when we choose the units according to ourselves. So this is the order of magnitude that we find in the universe. So with this we complete this chapter. Hopefully you might have understood the basics of the physics that we have discussed. Physics is a fun subject and it's about curiosity, it's about asking questions. So just keep your mind open and try to understand the nature as much as you can.